yeah. So thank you for being with me and with us today. And so I'm gonna give an intro. I'm gonna shoot a short video where I give an introduction of you before this, okay? And so I want this to be as a fluid and of a conversation as we can possibly do. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So so you are a professor. You have a PhD in psychology, and then you wrote 12, 13 books.
13.
13.
I've read 13.
Yes. Yeah. And you are also the founder of an institute, right, for the future of consciousness. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do I get the name right? Future of consciousness.
Yeah. Future consciousness. Future
Would
consciousness.
you like to tell me what this is? Future of consciousness.
Yes, it's
whose consciousness, I would ask. But then
we're talking about talking about everybody's consciousness. Okay, it's the Center for Future Consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And the Center for Future Consciousness, my wife and I, Jeannie Lombardo, we created it, I'd say about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I was, at that time, actively involved in teaching courses and giving presentations on the study of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And one key idea that I developed early on as a futurist was that all of us, all human beings, possess the capacity to imagine and think about and plan for the future, to set goals, to have purpose and intention looking forward and trying to create and manipulate the world around us with an eye on the future. That capacity that all of us have is what I refer to as future consciousness. Okay. That is our consciousness of the future. And that's very important and pivotal to many fundamental aspects of human life, from everyday human life to the creation of civilization, of tools, all of that. So as a psychologist, by training, by education, I was particularly interested in, could we heighten, enhance this normal human capacity? Because lots of people don't seem to have a very well-developed future consciousness. They don't plan well, they don't think ahead well, they can't imagine things about the future very well. So what can you do? What kinds of things can you do to enhance one's future consciousness? So the Center for Future Consciousness was an educational institute which developed workshops, articles, books, presentations, where the main goal was to help people to heighten their future consciousness. And so that's how it started 20 years ago. So it's a combination of me thinking as a futurist, as a psychologist, being interested in human consciousness and how it worked, and how one could enhance or develop what I thought was the most empowering capacity that we have, that is to imagine, feel, think out ahead, as opposed to simply live in the present.
Okay. I mean, this is basically, okay, so if I get this correctly, you are basically enhancing human to be more human, because, it is normally that we think that we are distinguished by the other animals, with the other animals, because we are capable of projecting, our wants into the future. And then we have the opposable thumb that allow us to manipulate the reality around us. And this is basically, so these two capacities. So one, it's physical, the opposable thumb, and another one is our awareness, our consciousness, our capacity of envisioning the future that have allowed us to shape the world the way you see it, for better or worse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and in many
fact,
ways,
yeah. In fact, I say and explain this, that having future consciousness allows us to engage in purposeful evolution. That is, we guide the process purposefully, intentionally, of evolution. It's no longer simply random variations in genes. It's no longer simply happenstance. Rather, we can guide the flow of change because we can think ahead, imagine ahead, and try to direct how things are going to change. And that's what created human civilization. Now, animals do possess some level of future consciousness, but in higher animals in particular, but nowhere near the capacity that we have for doing it. So, you'll see chimps, gorillas.
Do we have any proof of this, actually, as a psychologist?
Pardon me?
Can we prove that? Because can we prove that?
What?
Because because I've read sometimes that our capacity to envision the future had to do with the size of our brain, for example. But then it turns out that there are some I think whales or dolphins, I don't remember, that have a bigger brain than we do. And then it came out that the neocortex was the trick. And then I think there is another animal that has a thicker neocortex. And then Ray Kurzweil says, well, it's actually both. It's the thumb and the brain. So, do we have proof that other animals cannot envision the future as well as we do?
No, I didn't say that. I said that other animals can.
Yeah, they can. But you said that we do it better. We
do. Yeah, we do it vastly better because
for this.
Well, if you look around, you see lots of proof of it, because humans have drastically modified and structured the world in which we exist way beyond anything we see other animals doing. And we can engage in complex, long-term strategies and planning operations. Now, if we look at chimps or look at gorillas or look at dolphins, you definitely see a certain amount of purpose, intentionality, manipulation, planning even. But again, it's not going to be of the same complexity or extensiveness. Now, of course, we may find out things about animals that we don't know right now. But for example, do you imagine that any kind of animal can conceptualize and think about thousands of years into the future, can think in long-term futures? Now, perhaps they do, but I doubt it. But humans can. That is, we can understand, for example, that the Earth in 100 to 200 years, given the direction we're taking right now, ecologically, environmentally, is going to be significantly different. We can understand that. We can understand that the sun is going to go nova in 4 billion years. We can extrapolate or imagine out to great lengths of time. I'm not saying people do this a lot, or everybody does this, but we have this very long-term future capacity too. Yeah. So
I have a question. So you train people to envision the future. Can you define the future? Can you say what is the future for a person like you who has thought about the future for such a long time? Because normally, I would say for people that are not trained, for the people that are not really aware of this kind of space, a futurist is someone who can just are you capable of saying that in 20 years somebody will be at the given place at the given moment, or what is the future for someone like you?
Okay. Yeah. All right. The future. Yeah. All right. What is the future?
Yeah.
The future is what has yet to be.
Okay.
That is, the future is the set of possibilities that lie ahead of us in time. Time, to use a metaphor here, is a process of flow, of change. So when we talk about the future, we're talking about what will come to be. Now, how well can we predict that? Some things we can predict it with greater accuracy. A lot of things we can't predict it very well at all. But we do engage in a lot of prediction and anticipation of the future. And to some degree, we do very well at it.
Okay.
Now, to use one kind of an example here, all of our technological and scientific knowledge and superstructure is based on being able to make predictions about nature and to be able to control the deterministic flow of events in nature. That's things we can predict with high degrees of accuracy. Now, at the same time, I would say about the future is that the future does have an element of absolute uncertainty. That is, the future is always going to be an arena of surprises, of things we don't anticipate. So there's an element of uncertainty in it. That's good. In fact, that's very good, because the future then becomes a challenge to our intelligence, a challenge to our character, a challenge to our sense of purpose and determination, because we live in a reality that has this element of risk and uncertainty in it, the future.
Okay.
And you're never going to get rid of that.
So but can we not predict the future because of some lack of our imagination, or for the fundamental structure of reality?
Okay, the answer on that is both. The answer is both. The more knowledge we gather, the greater is our ability to predict. But it seems to me that the fundamental nature of reality is that there is a probabilistic or indeterminate quality to it.
The quantum level, right?
Yeah, at least at the quantum level.
Change it. Is that correct?
People will argue at the quantum level that there is a level of indeterminism, but it seems to me that there's probably a level of indeterminism at the human level too. We talk about it in terms of ideas like free will and choice and different possibilities that a human life has. But the indeterminate element, I think, exists at the human, at this macro level, as well as at the quantum level. There's two things here to keep in mind again. There is a deterministic element to nature, for sure. We study it, we understand it better and better. That allows us to make predictions about it up to a certain level. But at the same time, there's also an indeterministic element to nature too. And that indicates an open-endedness to the future, that the future is not entirely set in stone. It's not going to be a deterministic. It's not going to be a deterministic. It could only happen this way and could possibly happen any other way.
So when you're imagining the future, then what are you exactly doing? Are you thinking about a set of possibilities that can take place, a range, or what? Because in future studies you have the cone of the futures that always dilates over time.
Yeah. Okay, you could be thinking there's several different things you're going to be thinking. First of all, on the deterministic end, you're going to be making predictions, having anticipations of what seem to be highly probable, highly likely things to occur in the future, short term and long term. There's a deterministic and a predictive dimension to thinking about the future. So, for example, when people talk about the future of the Earth and the, say, for example, climate, people make deterministic predictions based on how much CO2 we're putting into the air right now, how much that's going to raise the temperature of the Earth, and how much it's going to raise seawater over the next 5, 10, 50, 100 years. And those are predictions. That's part of it. But then also, you can say that there are a set of questions where there are alternatives that could occur, different possibilities that could occur, and where we can't make an accurate prediction or say it's just that's the way it's going to be. And for example, we could say that if we do X, Y will occur, but if we do something different could occur in the future. So you could say that there's alternative possibilities ahead of us, in part based upon choices we make now and things that we may not be cognizant or aware of that are going to happen. So there's alternatives, possibilities. Then wait, before you go on, before you say, let me throw one other idea in there. There's also something which lots of futurists do, and people who aren't futurists do. They will say things like, this is the kind of world that I would like to live in. This is the direction we should take. This is what is a preferable future. So people, and a futurist will talk about, but other people do this too, what's the preferable future? What would be a good future 100 years from now? So I'm not saying it has to happen. I'm not giving you possibilities. What I'm identifying is a direction that I think we should take with respect to the future. That's a normative concept of the future, preferable.
So this is what you use in your work. Is that correct?
Yes, all of those. You think of all those three. You could think of all those three. What seems to be highly probable, where you could make predictions about it, at least. And of course, let me just highlight again. Our predictions have a level of probability, but as David Hume, the great British philosopher of the 18th century, pointed out, there is nothing about nature where you can absolutely for certain predict what is going to happen in the future. There's always an element of contingency, an element of maybe in it. I can't even say for sure that when I pick up this cigar and I let go of it, that it's going to fall to my desk. Now, highly probable, it will. But I can't know for absolutely, unequivocally for sure that it will. Okay, that's David Hume, the contingency of things.
There is a friend of mine, a physicist, who actually made the same kind of example to me. He was not talking about gravity, but he was talking about the consistency of matter. And he says that matter, we don't notice it, but it's actually empty, always moving and always rearticulating. And so he said, imagine that this is a table and I do like this with my finger. He told me that as I do this, matter is restructuring continuously, because before I do that, this is actually soft. And he says, if I were to do this over and over for billions of years or until the end of time, I might actually find a moment in which there is a hole in the structure of matter, and my finger could actually go through, because the idea of the sensation of impenetrability of matter, it's a sensation, but it's not true. This is just a reaction that electrons produce with each other when they come closer. So So in this,
well, yeah, I hear different things in that. I'll half agree with him. I'll agree with him on this part. If we understand the physical universe at the level we do right now, then there is a slight, very tiny possibility that on any given occasion, my finger could go through the table. Could. Okay, could. Now, the probability of it happening is very, very tiny, but that's based on our understanding.
Not impossible.
But not impossible. That's based on understanding of the nature of the physical reality. My point, which is David Hume's point, I'm just telling you what he argued, which I agree with, is that there is no way to demonstrate or to know with absolute certainty any prediction that I make about the future. Okay. There's always an element of contingency in it, always an element of uncertainty. So, even if it's very tiny, it's always there.
So at some point, an elephant could walk into your house. This is the kind of uncertainty that he's talking about?
Well, it could be anything.
How crazy could this be?
How crazy could it be? It doesn't have to be crazy. It could be just simply, let me try it to you this way. I'll try it to you this way. I'm using David Hume again. No matter how many times I observe that B follows A, even if it's thousands of times, thousands of demonstrations of B following A does not logically prove that B will necessarily follow A. All it demonstrates is that so far in all of our samplings, B has followed A. Okay. This is the problem in logic of induction, that when I observe a regular sequence, I could observe it repeatedly, and I could draw the generalization that B follows A, but any finite number of observations of that sequence does not logically prove that B will follow A. So,
but there's it's true. It's not possible to do science, right?
It is possible. All we're saying, yes, of course it's possible, because in order to understand science, science is a set of statements and beliefs that we have we've discovered, articulated, that have a high level, repeatedly evidenced and demonstrated of probability, but they're always contingent. And that is very good, because we can never say we absolutely know for sure. What we could say is, based on everything we have observed so far, these seem to be the best statements we can come up with the way the world works. See, so science is inherently open-minded, contingent, and subject to revision, because there's nothing in science that's absolutely known for sure.
I get it. Okay.
Got it? You got it? Okay.
So
now when somebody says that they know something for absolutely sure, in particular about the future, I go, well, you're closed-minded, you're a fanatic, you're dogmatic, but you sure as hell don't, dogmatic, you sure as hell don't understand the nature of our relationship with reality, that you think we can know things for sure about reality.
Okay, so would you want to give me a comment on something that happened a couple of days, like I think yesterday, the announcement that we made the first very important breakthrough in nuclear fusion.
Yes.
And so everybody's, and help me with this a little bit and tell me what you think, because everybody is saying, okay, we thought that nuclear fusion was impossible. Now we can actually do it, which means that we're probably going to have, free energy, or we produce more energy than the energy that it's used to, to produce the chain, the chain reaction. But the thing is that, to me, everybody's so concerned and wrapped around this idea of the goodies that are gonna come, right? It's the free gift, and in me, when I heard this, I'm like, wow, we can actually reproduce on the planet what happens in the universe when a star is born. Like, how mind-boggling is this? So this is my reaction. And then I think, yeah, okay, maybe we can use it in a lot of other times, okay, in a lot of other ways, whatever. But for me, this thing that, every element of the universe was born in a star, basically. So and we can actually do this here. Like, how great is this? So what's your reaction? Like, what do you think? And can you foresee something out of this?
Well, let's not let our heads get too big.
Okay.
Here, first of all, okay, not every element or constituent of the universe is born in a star, because a star fundamentally consists of hydrogen atoms, which were not born in the star, but collected to form the star. Mm-hmm. Hydrogen atoms were formed in earlier phases of the evolution of the universe. Mm-hmm. And indeed, the constituents of hydrogen atoms, of electrons and protons, and then of quarks tunneling down, are more primordial realities to the universe that we aren't tapping into that with fusion. What we're doing with fusion is we're creating a process that goes on inside of stars. Okay, great. And it's the means by which stars generate radiant energy, by fusing hydrogen atoms together into helium atoms, and in fact, even bigger atoms. Okay, now, the fact that we're able to do that, it doesn't surprise me, because when we have been evolving science, we're attempting to develop ways in which not only to understand, but to simulate and to control processes in nature. When we create these various technological devices and machinery, what we're doing is we're manipulating, based on an understanding, we're manipulating the flow of events in these miniaturizations of aspects of nature. Okay? So great, we could do this now. But as you realize, when they were talking about this event here, number one, there's been long-term controversy about whether or not you could actually do this. People keep saying, yeah, we're going to be able to do it. Some people have said they have, but they haven't been able to replicate it. And it's still the question now, can it be reliably replicated? Mm-hmm. Which the scientists are staying cautious about. That's part of science and part of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Well, we have to be able to replicate it. But not only do we have to be able to replicate it, we have to be able to replicate it on a mass scale in order to provide energy, right? Okay, to actually
it's
have
an impact. So we are at the prototype phase.
Right, to have an impact on the world, okay? So far, my wife actually told me this, I think, that the amount of additional energy created in this experiment was enough to boil 10 tea kettles. That's as much energy as they got out of it, extra energy. Now, here's the other thing to keep in mind, though. Second law of thermodynamics and the principle of entropy. You can't create additional energy here. And no matter what you're doing, you're not going to be making a perpetual motion machine. You're going to produce some effect from this creation of energy that in some way has to be controlled and channeled too. So there's no free energy here. It's just that we're learning how to manipulate nature such that we can get more usable energy than we put into it. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be some manner or form, and I have to look into this, how this happens. But the second law of thermodynamics and the principle of entropy is going to say that somehow we're going to get waste out of this. What that's going to be. It may not be radioactive waste, but there's some kind of way in which there's waste that's produced. There's no free lunch. That's what I'm trying to say. The old expression.
And you don't feel like you want to fall on your feet to, you know, how great
it is great. Yes, of course it's great. Yes, of course it is. Because I think we keep making these significant advances in our understanding of nature and our ability to, with that understanding, control the flow of nature. This is part of purposeful evolution. What we're doing here in this case is we're attempting to create a mechanism for generating energy on our planet that is modeled on what happens in stars. So we have to have a pretty good understanding of the star, how it works, the chemistry, the physics, and then we have to figure out how to make a simulation of that down here on the Earth and make it so that it's reliable and it continually works. That's purposeful evolution. We're manipulating and altering our the nature of the world that we live in by having this source of energy. If we can make it work, we started manipulating things when we were doing it with fire.
Yeah, we started with fire.
Steam. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not new, so to speak.
Right. So, and who knows what will come later? Other things will come later.
Yeah, and there is something I want to show you actually. Would you want to watch something with me for a minute? Because I've seen that you've written 3 books on science fiction.
Yes,
and finally, I find someone who wrote books about science fiction, and I'm really curious to talk about this. So I'm gonna show you something, and it's like a minute and a half long. And then I would like to hear your idea.
Right.
So hold on.
Okay.
Oh, 1 second. Oh, okay.
I saw the image, but it didn't move.
For video clip. Okay.
You got to share your screen with me.
Yes.
Good. Okay. There you go.
Can you see?
So far, I got nothing. There's the image. I see the image. It's not.
Can you see?
I could see the baby. Yes.
Introducing Ectolife, the world's first artificial womb facility, powered entirely by renewable energy. Ectolife allows infertile couple to conceive a baby and become the true biological parents of their own offspring. It's a perfect solution for women who had their uterus surgically removed due to cancer or other complications. With Ectolife, premature births and C-sections will be a thing of the past. Ectolife is designed to help countries that are suffering from severe population decline, including Japan, Bulgaria, South Korea, and many others. The facility features 75 highly equipped labs. Each state-of-the-art lab can accommodate up to 400 growth pods or artificial wombs. Every pod is designed to replicate the exact conditions that exist inside the mother's uterus. A single building can incubate up to 30,000 lab-grown babies per year. Ectolife allows your baby to develop in an infection-free environment. The pods are made of materials that prevent germs from sticking to their surfaces. Every growth pod features sensors that can monitor your baby's vital signs, including heartbeat, temperature, blood pressure.
Okay. I don't want to watch the whole thing because it's like 8 minutes long. So,
yeah.
Were you familiar with this thing?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Well, Antonio, as soon as I started watching it, I thought this is just simply a modern day version of what occurs in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, which was written in the 1930s.
Yeah,
okay.
but I have a term for this, and
You have what?
A term that I came up with. So it's
Yes.
a wonderful monstrosity, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or an awesome
Yes.
monstrosity. It's
Yes.
awesome because we were talking about purposeful evolution, right? But it's monstrous.
Why is it monstrous?
It's monstrous because to solve the problem of natality all over the world, because the numbers will shrink very soon,
right?
Because we live longer and longer. So we are taking care of a problem here, okay? But we are just ending. We are farming humans at this level, which we already do it with other animals. And so we are already doing monstrous things with other things, okay?
Okay, we're farming.
But we're farming humans this time. And the first thing that I thought when I saw it, I had two ideas. The first was the Matrix, without the necessary, because in the Matrix we are farmed like this because they need to extract energy. I don't think that this is going to be necessarily the case.
No. There's no energy being sucked out of these freeforms.
But the idea of walking into a place where there are, I don't know, 10,000 at the time, like artificial wombs, baby. I don't know how I feel about this. It's monstrous.
You don't like it. That's how you feel about it. I can tell you don't like it. And
yeah,
you said,
I'm scared. I'm actually, this is one of the first time where before an invention and a concept, I'm actually freaked out. Yes.
Yeah. Now,
I admire the idea, and it's brave also, but freaks me out. So what do you, and I understand the point. I understand it. We don't make babies, and societies will collapse for this. Italy is another country where the pyramid is actually basically upside down. So,
but that's not the issue. They're presenting this as a way. Okay, bye. Okay, that's my wife saying goodbye. You want to meet Antonio? This is Jeannie.
Hello.
Hello. Pleased to meet you. Hi.
Pleased to meet you as well.
Would you like
in Italy?
Yes.
Yes, Italy.
Yes.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, signora. I saw you wrote an article on not Calvino. No, you wrote an article on another Italian author a while ago.
Let's see. An Italian author. I've written on utopias.
No, your articles that you have up on the website. Who were there? Who were those writers? Was there an Italian one up there? You have about 20 or 30 articles.
Anyway, it's like a modern Italian author from 20th century. It's not Calvino, it's the other one.
Right.
I'm
I should know. I haven't looked at them.
You wrote so much that you don't remember. It's fantastic.
No, it's a drop in the bucket compared to Tom. Yeah, he got me going for a while, and I haven't been as productive recent years.
Okay.
But now I'm going to go and think about what I wrote about. Which
I don't know. You go look up on the website.
Damn.
You wrote on lots of different literary and philosophical figures.
Right, I know.
There is an Italian in there. He's looking for it now.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you're trying to find which one it was.
1 second, I'll tell you. Luigi Pirandello.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay. Shame on me because I have a degree in Italian literature.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of the theme of that particular one, and I was comparing him to. Right. Oh,
Okay. All right.
well,
Fantastic. I love
congratulations.
it.
I'm going to the post office to mail a present to my sister.
Ok.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Happy solstice.
Auguri. Grazie. Is it today?
No,
Is it-
let's see, 21st.
21st,
What?
right?
Solstice.
21st.
Yeah.
The solstice. Yeah, the
Right.
shortest
Lovely
day.
meeting you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Nice. Ciao. Bye.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, let's get back to the hundreds of babies in artificial wombs.
Exactly.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of was this. This is the first thing, is that to create a womb that will be as supportive and nurturing as a biological womb, that's going to involve a lot of development way past where we are now, because a mother provides a emotional and physical surround, an ambience for that baby emerging. She is a human with a human inside of her emerging. That is absolutely necessary in order to have a human emerging at 9 months out of there. It's not, you have to understand the psychological ecology of a womb.
Yes.
And how well could, to simulate that is going to be a big challenge. It's not just temperature. It's not just chemistry. It's the heartbeat of the mother. It's the motions of the mother. It's the hormones running through the mother.
The songs,
It's that,
people who touch, the love that
the touching. We grow inside of ourselves, so to speak. In order to be a human, we have to grow inside of a human. We bud from the inside out. That's how we grow. Okay, granted all of that challenge, we have been steadily and continue to do so, finding technologies to enhance, support, cure, facilitate human health and human development. We call that medicine. And we just keep doing more and more of it. Okay, that's medicine. Okay, and biotechnology. So to actually create the conditions technologically to support the growth of humans, to me, doesn't seem monstrous at all. It seems simply like an extension of this direction that we have been taking to maximize the health and viability of humans through science and technology. If part of the science and technology is going to involve having the appropriate kind of psychological ambience, context for the budding of a human, well, then that's something we are trying to figure out. Now, you brought up science fiction a few minutes ago, and
yeah, because it
looks
like it's being taken out of the Matrix.
Right. I would have, science fiction repeatedly has addressed this general question of in the future, how we might be able to technologically create new humans without having to go through the step of the human having to grow inside of a human. Can we create the right kind of technologies to do that? And this has been imagined lots of different ways. part of the reason why you might see it as a monstrosity when you look at that image is that the humans in there look mass produced. You know, it's very regimented, just hundreds and hundreds of bubbles all in a row, right? Okay. And they're all going to come out the same. Baloney, they won't all come out the same, but it almost looks like they're going to be all coming out the same because they're all in the same little bubbles, one after another, one after another. Yeah, but the fact is, there would be arguments that people could make.
I wonder what your wife would think about this.
My wife came back. Okay.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yes. Yes. And so, yes, it bothered me that I could not remember. So relativity versus certitude.
Hey.
Thank you. I'm going to reread it.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Yes. And people of the future, for lots of different reasons, might decide that it makes more sense to have their babies gestated outside of their bellies than within their bellies. You know, if it can be done, they may decide for various reasons to do that. One of the things that was in your short little video, which they presented as a fundamental argument, is that all of the different kinds of ways things can go wrong can be monitored in real time and prevented from happening. So it becomes a safer reality for the gestation and birthing of a child. Okay.
So we optimize nature.
Yeah. And right now, due to the way evolution unfolded, one half of our species, it has been saddled with the responsibility of birthing the species inside of its own body. The other half of the species, the males, don't have to deal with this, okay? So lots of women may think of the future, you know, why should I have to carry the baby for 9 months when it could be generated inside of an artificial womb that replicates and more safely replicates the conditions of what we call normal or natural, which I don't believe in that idea of what's normal or natural childbirth. That's another whole angle. The main thing here, and this is something that's very fundamental about the future, and this is a reason for encouraging people to read science fiction, is the possibilities of the future shock the sensibilities of the people of now. That is, when we think about what could be possible in the future, anything past a certain range of what we're adapted to, we'll find appalling and we'll just rattle our nerves. Well, that's impossible. You shouldn't do that, right? Or that's unnatural, or it creates dissonance in us. You know, the more you reach out. And just to give you the thought experiment on this, and I've done this one lots of times myself, imagine you went back in time and got somebody who was an enlightened, famous thinker of the past. Let's take Aristotle. Went back in a time machine, brought Aristotle to the 21st century. How would he react to this? He would be scared shitless. Probably. Okay. Yes. In fact, somebody even more recent, like Benjamin Franklin or Isaac Newton, closer to the present, they would still be jolted. Put them in a vehicle and throw them on a highway. They would think, "Oh my God, this is crazy, dangerous. What is this?"
True. But there is a point in Stuart Russell latest book about artificial general intelligence, where he basically says that if Aristotle would live now, he would be an artificial intelligence person, researcher, because of all the study that he did on decision. Aristotle spent quite a bit of time, doing research on these kind of things, and so it was interesting. Yeah, it would probably be quite scared. Yeah.
Yeah, very scared. And so when you see
putting
that,
someone on a plane, for example.
Yeah, put someone on a plane. Yes. Or even this. Like, okay, I have Benjamin Franklin sitting next to me right here. This only 250 years ago he lived. And he's looking at this screen and he's seeing you on the screen moving and talking. Yeah. And I tell him, well, that guy's in Italy right now. And what the hell is going on? And he would probably, if you explained it to him, be able to figure out a bit of what happened, how it was happening. And being a believer in the possibilities of science and progress 250 years ago, someone from the Middle Ages would see this as witchcraft.
Yeah,
okay?
I will probably smash the computer.
It probably smashed the computer. Right.
Is the future shock? Is this the future shock?
Oh, future shock.
Is this what we just talked about? Is this a future shock?
Yeah.
When you see things coming from the future that violate your expectation, because this is what happened to me actually. My expectation of the future violated. And so I reacted the way I reacted. Is this the
yeah. In fact, future shock would be a good expression to use there. Now, Evan Toffler, who coined the expression back in early 1970s, he just meant by future shock that things were changing faster and faster. And so, in a sense, the future was coming at us quicker and quicker, and it was stressing us out. It was shocking us. New things were emerging too fast for the human mind to digest, assimilate, and adapt to. Mm-hmm. So change was happening too fast. That's future shock for Evan Toffler. But the way we would use it here would be that those creative and sufficiently different dimensions of the future will shock our present perspective on reality. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, and anything that's too far outside of the norm for what we consider natural, whatever term we want to use there. Okay. Yeah. So seeing a bunch of babies in rows in little bubbles being grown, we find it offensive or too much. It's just too. No good.
And it's quite hypocritical because this is how we raise not like this. We actually do raise other animals in terrible conditions too. So it's hypocritical to be shocked by these things because
and there's all kinds of ways and levels to be shocked at. But the fact is that a fundamental dimension of purposeful evolution in human history has been our ongoing efforts to understand, manipulate, and help our biological reality, medicine and biology.
So you see this in continuity with what we have been already.
Yes, we've been doing it. The genie is out of the bottle. And on top of it all, although it's going to be a very complicated challenge, we are engaging in the activity of how do we manipulate the genetic code of humans to create different kinds of humans than we have right now, okay? Where we start to engage in a purposeful, scientifically informed, genetic future evolution, and that's a dimension to this too. And people will find that appalling and will say, well, they're not human anymore, blah, 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 or it's dangerous.
Giving it like extra strength, extra intelligent, extra, to not just eliminate possibilities of diseases, but
It's not just, there's a distinction there, the distinction between correct the problem, and people might be more inclined to that, or produce an enhancement. But you can't draw the line there is too fuzzy-wuzzy. You can't really distinguish between correct the problem and produce an enhancement. So if you can make people not only simply more intelligent, let's say more creative, let's simply say more empathic or more loving or more collaborative. One thing that people have thought about for a long, long time has been humanity has a history of being aggressive and warlike and killing. Is there some way to reduce that? And then we have scenarios on it. Maybe if you reduce that in the disposition for it in genes, dispositions only, we knock something else out that was a benefit with it. So the genetic engineering of all of that is going to get very, very complicated. That doesn't mean you can't do it. It just gets more complicated. You got a lot of interaction effects. That's something that's, the first step is you understand it, and you, of course, start to work with it and see what you could do to make it better. And you make lots of mistakes, and some people say the mistakes could really backfire on us. We have the standard scenario of we're going to create a monster. We're going to create something dangerous to the species. The scenario is there in the evolution of general AI. Will we create an intelligence that is not just superior to us, but that doesn't care about us, or in fact even wants to push us out of the way because we're getting in the way of its own evolution? I don't know, that last one. But it's that fear of something superior to us that we react to, or indifferent to us.
So to connect to, the first words that you were using at the beginning, you were talking about consciousness. So, and now you name general AI. So do you think, so you use consciousness as a consciousness of future, as our aware, our capacity to predict and shape and manipulate and describe things that are ahead, but there are also other uses of consciousness. So do you think that we're going to be able to infuse consciousness to machines, for example? What is your take on it? What do you think? Is this because I'm just beginning to read. So my take is that we can, but now I'm reading a book from one of the inventors of the first microchips. He's an Italian guy. I don't have his book here. Oh, okay. So I'll show you. His name is Federico Faggin. He worked for Intel. So Federico Faggin. So it came up in Italian. It came out in Italian. So this guy projected the first microchip. So he's as a person that really knows what computers are. And I've read about half of the book. And his point is that he thinks that we cannot. He says no. All right. And he says why? Well, because computers are deterministic machines that obey to that are structured according to classical physics, which is reductionist and determinist. And he says humans and life in general, actually, it doesn't talk only about humans, are grounded on free will, which is then grounded on quantum, on the quantum level of reality that allow us to do, different. So he claims of an heteromorphism of the two worlds that make basically structurally, he says, impossible to copy one thing into another and to produce. And he says, life is organism are structures that constantly change themselves. Machines don't. You cannot undo a cell and then put it back together, whereas computer you can. And it was a lot of examples in this regard. So and he makes it's actually very clear, transparent, and I can follow well and kind of agree so far. So what's your
I have some comments on that too. Would you give me 1 minute? I'll be right back. Give me a minute.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll be back and I'll comment on that book and your points.
Yes.
I could go off on. Oh, okay. There's one tangent I can go off on there, which has to do with the quantum reality of all physical computers. Because indeed, if quantum theory is correct, then even if the macro design of a computer is a Newtonian deterministic reality, that is a structure, a higher level structure that's supported by quantum reality. So it's not like computers are not quantum reality down deep. They are. And secondly, there is, which I don't understand very well, the whole direction of trying to create quantum computers using quantum logic. So I don't know how that fits in here with a deterministic type of model of computers. But that's a tangent. But let's go back to the main point. And to some degree, I was agreeing with what that guy was, your summary, what he was saying, because
what I understand, of course, because I,
you understand.
Am I misunderstand things that he's saying?
Yeah, I mean, because when you look at life, including human life and other animals that clearly seem to possess consciousness too, we evolved in a fluctuating, interactive reality where we and our ancestors were moving about and manipulating things, and we weren't in some kind of structured, contained, motionless situation. We are dynamic and fluid beings, and down deep in us, who exist in a dynamic and fluid environment. So consciousness in us emerged in that kind of reality. It didn't emerge in a contained, static box. Okay, so if I were to envision conscious AIs, I would think that in some manner or form, that consciousness would have to emerge in a different kind of a mechanism, like, if nothing else, in some kind of interactive, dynamic, behavioral situation versus in a box. Now, and that gets a little more complex, I'm thinking about it, but that would support his argument that life emerged in a fluid reality and is a self-organizing fluid reality itself, which is different from a computer, okay? Now, if indeed that is absolutely necessary and critical to consciousness, then you would say, yes, that kind of thing can't be conscious because it doesn't exist in that kind of ambience and it isn't that kind of a thing. But the puzzle is still going to be that what are the necessary conditions and key features that go into a conscious being? Okay, what is it that supports and allows for what we call these conscious beings like us? What is it? Okay, now there's lots of answers.
Yeah, but could you foresee? I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because this is too exciting. So could you foresee that conscious could be also a life-independent phenomenon?
I don't know what you meant by that. Say that again.
Meaning, could you because the basically what we know about consciousness so far is that it emerges from life.
Yes.
But we have learned, for example, that intelligence is not related to life necessarily. Okay, it's a substrate in the Max Tegmark and a lot of other people say, intelligence is a substrate independent. So you can have intelligent systems without being conscious. Okay, so could you foresee that maybe among the key ingredients of having a conscious being, life is not necessarily part of it? Because this is
Well, it depends
way,
on what you, yeah, but it depends on what you mean by life. Okay.
life is
Okay.
well, for
What-
example, well, you know, when you make a computer, you make it and it's complete. And then you can sell it, and then you can take off
Right.
a piece and then put another one. With us, it's not really the way it works. Meaning, and I'm repeating some of the things that I've read. Right, there is this thing that we are never really complete. We're always evolving, always organizing, always in symbiosis.
Right.
But there is a lot of stuff that happens right now. For example, between me and my environment, that I'm in some symbiosis with it, and I'm exchanging a lot of information with.
Yeah.
So that's life. Not everything that there is about life, but that's also life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Exhaustive. So can you foresee consciousness emerging from things that are not alive, or maybe we need to change our understanding of life? Maybe I don't know. What do you?
Okay. Well, right. Wait. Well, okay. The first thing is, all right, I asked you what you meant by life, and you gave me some features or some aspects of living things. And so I could ask the question, why can't I design or create that kind of mechanism? And then it would satisfy your definition of to be alive. It would not be the same kind of mechanism that you see with our computers today, but it doesn't mean that it can't be created, manufactured, produced. If we understood what the hell was going on there sufficiently, that we could, again, science and technology, simulate it. Okay, but we have to understand what it is that we're trying to simulate there. All right. Okay, now, at this point in time, as far as we know, the only things that are conscious are things that we call living. Now, it may be that we may encounter, we'll go back to science fiction here, things that exist in the universe that may not exactly satisfy our definitions of to be alive, but in fact may be conscious. And it depends on how broadly you want to define life, how much flexibility you want to put in it. I think, for example, which was a good thought experiment, was Stanislaus Lem's novel Solaris. In that case, we had a planet which had this gelatinous dynamical ocean around it. And somehow or other, that ocean had intelligence and consciousness in it, but you wouldn't exactly call it something that was a living creature. Or maybe you would, depends on how you want to define a living creature.
Semantics, okay.
Yeah, okay. But it depends on your theory. I mean, I've read books on, the question of what is life? And people come up with a set of fundamental features of life. But when you go science fiction on this, or when you go into outer space, the question naturally comes up, maybe our definition of life is too narrow, and that we're thinking of life here on Earth, and you could have all different other forms of dynamical complexity out there, and they may be conscious too, but they may be conscious based upon a substructure that's different in some way than ours.
Exactly. Okay. So that's what I meant when I say that our consciousness might be life independent from life. So
well, independent of life as we understand life on the Earth.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Yes, on the Earth. Okay, but we only have a sample of one ecosystem so far, the Earth. Another science fiction writer who lots of people have toyed around with his ideas, Olaf Stapleton, talked about forms of collective consciousness that integrated out of swarms. That is not out of one congealed body, but rather were a consciousness that existed in like a swarm of millions of individual entities that somehow resonated with each other and formed the mind, even though they didn't have a single body. They were more
this is
like
what we are already, isn't it? We are made of cells. You described what we are right now. I mean,
that's true too, but we have individual consciousness. Okay, in fact, now that I even say that out loud, we may not have individual consciousness if we existed as solitary beings. We only may acquire consciousness because we are socially interactive in our growth. But I do experience right now a sense of my consciousness, and you experience a sense of your consciousness as if they are individual, distinct things, although there's also this interface going on between our consciousnesses right now across 5,000 miles somehow. How the hell that's happening? Yeah, okay. So
yeah, that's a
to me,
wise
okay. To me, it seems, I think I mentioned this when we first talked, it seems to me that the way to address the question of artificial intelligence becoming conscious requires us to understand the conditions for consciousness in a basic fundamental sense. And so we can say, this is what consciousness is, this is how it arises, and therefore I can tell you that this thing over here is not conscious, where that thing over there is, because I understand what it is that makes for it being conscious. That's where we struggle with. As I was making a joke before, we have lots of answers people have proposed regarding the nature of consciousness, how it's connected with the body, with the physical world, but there's all these different ideas. It's like a big smorgasbord of possibilities. And so lots of people will say consciousness is a mystery. And it's funny that it's a mystery. We have so many different answers to it, but in a sense, it is a mystery. So if some joker says a computer can't be conscious, I say, well, what is it that makes anything conscious? And since we're not sure about that, I don't know why you should say in some absolute fashion that computers today or into the future can't be conscious.
That's my take.
Yeah,
that's my take.
Right.
This is how I would say, because what do you know? I mean, do you have a definitive understanding of consciousness, like a finite theory of consciousness that allows you to say this is yes, this is no? We don't have that.
Yeah, we don't have that, you know, and we have lots of different things that we can bring up. I mean, that guy who you're reading right now, he brings up an important point, which is that we are dynamical, fluid, self-organizing entities that exist in a dynamical, interactive surround. We evolved in that set of conditions. We sort of emerge as forms out of a sea of chaos, and shit, that sure don't look like what happens when you make a computer. So that's a good point. I think that's a good point.
Strong, right?
Yeah, right. It's a good point. But at the same time, we do have this high level, and it's multi-hierarchical a complexity to our physical being, and that seems to probably have some significance in all of this, that this consciousness emerges in this exceedingly complex but exceedingly dynamic. Everything in us is moving and vibrating all at the same time. And out of that, we get this consciousness, this me. Here I am, alive, and I can see the world, and I can understand things. And it emerged through this evolutionary process. You know, somebody might say that consciousness can't exist except in a being which has evolved within nature, as opposed to have been made. You know, maybe they could say something like that. But
I don't even know if I agree
I
with
don't
it,
think about that.
because it's like, I have a counterpoint to people that claim this thing. It's like, have you ever watched a work of art? That
Ever watched what?
Any work, any significant work of art.
Oh yeah.
Live. Of course, not in a biological sense, but pulses with life. I challenge people to go look at the Moses, for example, from Michelangelo.
Mm-hmm.
That sculpture lives. If you watch it long enough, there is something that projects outwards that you can feel. And so I don't, maybe I'm saying something stupid here, but I don't know where I want to go with this. Okay, I'll leave it. But I would, we might be caught up into a very narrow definition of these terms when we discuss, that might blind us when we have to find answers. I think this is what I would try to come back to.
Yeah. And on that count, on that point there, I will come back again to science fiction. There's a stereotype view of science fiction that comes across through science fiction cinema, where the plots and the characters and the overall structure of it pretty much is very repetitious.
Yes.
But science fiction literature is a highly philosophical, mind-stretching activity of the mind. So I'm trying to stand outside of the immediate here and now and what we're used to, and to imagine other possible realities or other possible perspectives on existence in the form of narratives. And so I'm intentionally, as a writer, and if I engage as a reader, I'm going through the process too of stretching my consciousness, my mind, considering other possibilities. That's okay. This is addressing your question about being narrow. The problem that we are presented with, here's one way to say it, one way I would say it, is that there is no way for us not to be within a particular perspective on reality. We cannot transcend the fact that we always see, perceive, understand reality from a perspective. So in that sense, we're always limited, okay? And at a very perceptual level, I'm standing here, not everywhere at the same time. I'm seeing it from one point of view. But what I can do is I can keep trying to introduce into my consciousness alternative perspectives. I don't end up in a godlike position where I see everything from everywhere all at once, but rather at least I can start to stretch the perspectives I take. Yeah.
Hold on. So talking about because I saw a list of books that you had about science fiction. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about Dr. Manhattan in The Watchmen?
Oh yeah, I like that. I love
because you were talking exactly about this thing of being in perspective, and that guy who's is it the word? Is it ominous? I don't think he's ominous, but he's very. I'm very puzzled by the character actually, and I think that character is. My culture of science fiction is limited. I like movies. I haven't read a lot of books of science fiction, which is something that I have to take care of now that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
But because for how you presented it. Actually, it's actually silly that I haven't done this already. But anyways, regardless. So the guy is kind of a god who's capable
He's
of
godlike. He does godlike relative to our notion of what it would be to be a god. Okay, Dr. Manhattan is a good science fiction invention. I'm not saying it's entirely unique, no. But Dr. Manhattan possesses the capacity to be conscious of what simultaneously and integratively what we cannot do at this point in time. He sees things from more expansive points of view than we do. But that doesn't mean he transcends point of view. It's just a more expansive consciousness. Now, he also, though, and you know, you can get into disputes here about the nature of more advanced consciousness. He does seem to present the idea that he is conscious of past, present, and future simultaneously, all right? As if that were some kind of possibility or advance. Now, in my mind, I don't think it's possible to be aware of the nature of temporal reality such that the future is entirely clear and definitive. I think that the nature of reality is that the future has an uncertain openness to it. So it's impossible for someone to be conscious of past, present, and future as if the future were already there to see at some higher vantage point, which is where he presents himself. I can see it from a trans-temporal perspective above time.
He's a god. He's a god. Basically,
well,
he's
yeah.
hero. He's a god.
Basically. But that's our notion of God. Okay, that particular notion of God, I think, is ontologically impossible, or epistemologically impossible, in that there cannot be a mind that can see in complete definition the entire extent of the future, because the future is not some absolute deterministic reality which could be seen from some higher perspective.
Because it contradicts the nature of reality. Okay.
Yeah, it's because of the nature of reality. Yes, right. And when you get into the whole, and we're going to get into time here, which is going to turn our heads inside out, of course. But when you get into the idea of how do I say this? Let me give me a second. Yeah, maybe I'm going the wrong pathway. Okay, I was going to try something.
It doesn't matter.
No, I was going to start talking about time travel and time machines and how that gets reality and time even more complex and in its structure. But I still would say that Dr. Manhattan there, it's an archetype of God. Yes, it's an archetype of God, of a kind of God. But he's still limited in his perspective. And I don't think it makes sense to say he could see the way the future is going to be. Now, we could see the way the future is going to be in certain senses that we can predict with high degrees of reliability. In fact, I read a book a number of years ago that really impressed me called The 5 Ages of Eternity. And it was by two physicists who said and presented the argument that we can predict with a high degree of probability what the next Google years of the universe are going to be like. Now, notice the word Google in there. Okay, that's a 1 followed by 100 zeros. Now, the universe is only 13.5 billion years old, roughly. And how many digits is, yeah, 13.7, okay?
Yeah.
Now, a billion is
90.
9 zeros. These guys are saying we can go out into the future with a high degree of probability, predictions of 100 zeros. How is that possible? But then they lay out the arguments from physics and the way the universe is transforming, the Big Bang, entropy, evolution, black holes, and they give a very interesting perspective of the next Google years. Now, lots of things may happen along the way here, but the fundamental patterns of nature in their mind seem to indicate a way to predict out that far. Okay, just to throw that into the mess, into the discussion, to what degree that's realistic, conceivable. There's all kinds of ways to come at that, but it's not like it's a totally crazy idea. It's not a totally implausible idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, this reminds me a little bit of the models that we do on climate. Okay, which I was part of a community called the deep adaptation, and they refer to this guy Jim Bendel, who's an English professor, who's written this paper 4 or 5 years ago called Deep Adaptation. And this paper has been downloaded like 1 million times, something like this. But anyway, he lays out, he says, okay, let's look at the air, the ocean, the land, and it puts all together in 20 pages. And he says, okay, the level of, I'm oversimplifying this, but anyway, the level of destruction, okay, it's going exponential. All right, which means that there is nothing to do. He says, so therefore, we cannot talk anymore about mitigation, which is to
fix the slowdown
stuff. Yeah, exactly. But we need to adapt because the feedback have already started, and we cannot stop them anymore. Therefore, there is a high chance, or give a number that civilization, the way we know it, is going to collapse, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I was part of that space for a little bit, and my one argument that I tried over and over was, okay, but can you, in this model of understanding reality, can you incorporate the scientific discoveries that we're going to make over time that will allow us to manipulate reality better and better and better and better and better. And they did not, of course, they could not give me an answer, because it was like, we have no idea. Like, exactly, if you don't know what we're going to be able to do in 10 or 20 years, how can you say that you know how the world is going to evolve? And by the same token, you're talking about how the universe could evolve in that ridiculous number that you said.
Yeah, right? Google years.
Okay, I didn't even know it was a number, actually.
It is. Google is a 1 followed by 100 zeros.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so it's a very long number there. And I'm thinking, okay, how do you make this prediction without factoring in, the evolution of knowledge? It's not even humans. It's the evolution of knowledge, the capacity, according to some beings, which is not necessarily us, to learn and manipulate the world around them, such that.
Okay. Yes.
Am I making sense here?
No. I think you're right on target. I think you're perfectly correct.
Kardashev scale.
You're perfectly correct. You're perfectly correct, because. And this goes back to a couple things I've said so far, which is that humans are a form of intelligent consciousness that engages in purposeful evolution. In fact, the way I suggest it in the stuff I write is that purposeful evolution is an evolution in evolution.
Yes.
And yes, and the universe itself is evolving more efficient ways to evolve itself. And we are in this right now. So what we or others, our descendants, whoever, or of other intelligent beings, may be able to understand and therefore be able to manipulate and guide is totally open right now. And given the constraints of reality, but the constraints of reality, once you understand them, you gain power over them. Knowledge is power in some sense, okay? So we may not understand right now how to alter this, how to change or direct it, but that doesn't mean that we won't be able to at some point. In fact, that's exactly what we do, is we keep coming up with deeper understandings and more sophisticated instruments to control and direct nature. That's what we do. So even like Kurzweil, and I know Kurzweil got this idea, and other people have had this idea as well, is that the fate of the universe is contingent upon what the evolution of intelligence in the universe will end up realizing and deciding what to do about the universe.
I agree a trillion%. Google.
Right. Yes.
Because
right.
Because the more we understand, the more we learn to manipulate, which means that that the more we're gonna be able to alter how things are.
And keep in mind that this is part of nature. We are what's his name? Julian Huxley said this a long time ago. We are evolution become conscious of ourselves, and evolution become conscious of itself. We are a natural expression of the process of evolution itself evolving with consciousness and purpose and foresight and imagination and the acquisition of knowledge. We are facilitating in a very natural way, but at a higher level, the whole process of evolution. And so it's not like we're doing something natural here, but what's going to happen to the universe, what's going to happen to the earth is going to be a consequence of our own evolution. Now, things could go wrong here. That's the contingency, the uncertainty of things, but you can't say that this is absolutely the way it's going to be and there's nothing we could do about it, because that depends upon our level of understanding of things right now. Now, by the way, I should get off. It's okay.
I will let you go. It's about thank you. I'm gonna hit stop for a second, and I wanna,
we can stop right now for a second. Okay, it's not like we covered all the. Obviously, we didn't cover all the different angles and everything we were talking about. Yes.